Hi all, welcome to this video guide of servicing a 2004 Elysion V6 with a J30A engine. What I'm going to do today is a basic engine oil filter change and also a transmission fluid change. So I'll show you a few steps and guides on this process to help people who may like to service their own vehicles or their own Elysions in the future. So this is the RR3 Elysion, so most 2004 to 2013 Elysions will be the same. Alright, so if we want to start off with engine oil, I use Champion 5W20 USA made oils. I reckon they work very well. They actually make the car feel smoother and better acceleration than a lot of oils I've used. And I'm going to use a PIA Japanese made oil filter, which is bought from Autobox in Japan. Engine oil wise, you need about 4.2 or 4.3 liters, but normally I'd see how much is drained out and sort of balance it from there and then check the dipstick. Transmission oil wise, I use Fuchs, which is a German oil. The ATF 4400 is compatible with a lot of Japanese gearboxes made by Nissan. You need about 2.9 liters of this, but same as the engine oil, I'm going to be see how much is drained out and then balance it from there. Whatever is drained out, I'll put whatever in and then check the dipstick from there. So before I start, I'll just show you where all the holes are. So down here is where you're going to be pouring the engine oil in using a funnel, and you're going to be pouring transmission oil down from here. So I'm going to have to remove this later, and I'll show you after it's all removed. People that has a factory air filter may have to remove the air filter as well for transmission changes. I do transmission oil changes every 20 to 30,000 k because these V6 Honda transmissions are known to break, so they overheat a bit. So changing them regularly is good. Right. So now we look at where we drain the transmission oil, and transmission oil, if you can see it from here, is, let me get down. Right, transmission oil. Now if you get under your engine after you checked it up, remember before you check your vehicle up, always loosen this wheel, because it's easier to take this wheel off later and locate the oil filter. So I normally loosen this, and later I'll take it off and show you how I take the oil filter off. Right, this part here, over here, that's where the transmission oil comes out. It's a 3 by 8 inch bolt, so you use one of these. So normally what I do is get one of these 3 by 8 inch torque bars, fixed bars we call them, and you simply shove them in like this, and then later just anti-clockwise, so you're pushing in, release it, let it drain out. Engine oil wise is over here. You'll see this drain plug engine oil. It's a size 17, I believe. Let me double check that. 1917. So yes, 17. Again, anti-clockwise, use your hand to slowly unscrew this and the oil will come out. So this is just simply the draining part. It's pretty easy. I'll be draining them out and I'll start continue with the next few steps. Alright, so I've now finished draining, or almost. You'll see all the oil there still dripping away. Engine oil is almost finished dripping. Now if you haven't done your transmission oil change in a while, you'll see a lot of skunk. Don't know if you can see this. Let's try and let me focus. Yep, you'll see a lot of skunk. This is alright. This is just 20,000 k. You get this amount of skunk. When I first got this car, it was 18,000 k's. I don't think I ever had this transmission change, and this was filled with lots of little skunk metals and all that. This is exactly why these V6 transmission oil needs to be changed regularly. Otherwise, these things build up inside and ultimately they stuff up your transmission. So it's all dripping nicely now. So one last thing to drip all the stuff out is the oil filter. Alright. So the oil filter is here. This is my favorite type of oil filter wrench. So you basically slide it on and just turn it until it's nice and tight. Now remember, to loosen all these 3 bolts, the oil filter and the 2 bolts to the engine oil and the transmission, it's lefty loosey, righty tighty. So left is gonna be how you make it loose. So what I normally do is use this wrench first and get it as loose as possible. Remember, when you're tightening this back on, don't put it too tight, otherwise you get a lot of trouble. So what we're gonna do here now is loose this up. Now when we loose this up, I'm gonna have to move this because, as you'll see, it's starting to drip now. So move your oil drainer and hope that it doesn't splatter everywhere. I always clean this up at the end with some degreaser, but we're gonna get messy. Wear gloves as well, really helps. It's gonna take a few turns. If it drops, it drops, doesn't matter. It's quite a long bolt, so it does take a little while. Here we are. Oops. And that's why you always have newspaper. Alright, put this upside down, let it drain. This is all going to drain everywhere. Alright, so I'm going to let this drain, and I'm going to start taking the battery apart, and so I can start filling the transmission. So it's quite fast. The service like this is normally about 30 or 40 minutes once you're used to it. It's going to drip a more, so just make sure your pan is at all the places that it's going to drip. Okay, next step. So you'll find engine oil is still dripping. I haven't done anything there. Transmission oil is still dripping. Okay, so I've just removed the battery. There's a bracket here. The bracket goes here, and then a hook over here goes over here. You'll see this hook area here. Make sure you take this off first before you unbolt all the negative and positive terminals. There's a little battery pan. They get really dirty, so take it out, give it a wash. Usually lots of dead bugs in there, depending on the last time you took it out, took the battery out. So transmission is a little bit different to conventional transmissions, where you simply put a tube through the plug, through the that plug there. That's the dipstick, because it's too small. So with the Honda V6 just automatic transmissions, you'll see once you take your air filter out, I'm lucky because I've got a Canon Apollo, which is very easily taken off. I don't have to take the whole air box out. I've got my own Cody intake there. So battery out, intake out, and see that little bolt there? That's a number. That's a size 17 metric. Unbolt that, and it can get quite tight, so use a torque wrench if it's really tight. Takes this out. So now you have your hole there for putting in the transmission fluid. Alright, so again, engine oil, transmission. Alright, so now what I need, remember to take this off. Anti-clockwise, pull it up, gives me more space to work with. Alright. So what we're going to use now is get one of these funnels with a long tube. These are usually made for transmission, and simply make sure the head is clean, nice and clean. Yes, it is. And stick it in. Alright, so what you want to try and achieve here is put that as deep in as possible. You don't want that tube to come out when you're filling it up. So later, I'll need both hands to do this, but tip it in, tip about 2.8 liters in, and then and then check the dipstick. But of course, before that, I'm going to pull this out later and check the capacity on it, see how much has come out. So I'll put in the same amount first and then go from there. Same as the engine oil. Engine oil wise, engine oil use, just one of these will be more than sufficient. Goes in there. And then later when I've put all the bolts back at the bottom, so later I got to put this back and that back, back in the hole, tighten it up, and then I can start tipping all of it. Okay. So I put the wheel back, and I've already put the air filter, which you can see at the background. That's the air filter. Make sure when you're putting it on, don't over tighten it. Just pull it 2 or 3 times tight with the wrench. You don't want it so tight that you can't get it off the next time. Normally I'll use my palm and try and turn it to as tight as possible with my hand, and then I'll use the wrench and pull it probably half a circle around, or up to 70% of a circle, to make sure it's nice and tight. So I've just put in, funny enough, the manufacturer says that it needs 2.9 litres, however I managed to drain just under 4 litres, about 3.7, 3.8 litres out. So always check this. So beforehand I had 3.8 litres in it with it. After the whole transmission is dry, there's approximately 7.2 litres. So obviously I drained almost about over half of that out already. I did let it drain and drip for about 1 hour. Don't know if you can see this, but engine oil got about 4 litres out. So I drained about 3.8 litres of transmission oil and around just over 4 litres of engine oil. So I put, I basically, at the side there's a marking, so I've just tipped 3.8 litres of oil into there and tip it all in to make it easier. I'm now at 4 litres, so all I have to do next really is take these all off, put the battery back in, and put the filter back in, check the car down. What you want to do afterwards, when this is all done, is start up the engine, listen for any weird noises, put the gearbox from park to reverse to drive, back to reverse and drive and back again. You want the oil to get into all the gears as much as possible. And then take it out for a drive, come back after about 5 minutes and check the dipstick. Make sure that your dipstick for both transmission and engine is at the second hole and not bottom or over. If it's overly over the maximum, I would tip out some if you can, but that's why it's very important to measure everything at the beginning. So again, transmission hole is there. Make sure you put this back in there and put your cover back. So that's about it. That's a full engine oil and transmission oil change. Took me less than an hour really. Of doing it, draining, I did give it 1 hour and went to do some house chores and whatnot and come back after an hour. So that's fully finished stripped. Remember to get some degreaser so you can clean the ground, because you're going to have oil all over the place. Always have a few rags in there. I always have a few rags. Bag of these rags, very useful. Apart from that, thanks, and hope this has helped you service your Elysion for the first time.